Good evening, everyone. If you would like, please stand for the pledge and remain standing for the invocation. Thank you. We have Rick Ponzo here from Calvary Chapel.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, and staff. Thank you for having me back. Lord, we thank you for this evening. We know that you are able to give wisdom beyond our imagination. So, Lord, we pray for that wisdom. We pray for clarity. We pray for vision. We pray for understanding. As decisions are made here tonight, we pray that they would be the best decisions for the interests of our community. Lord, we pray for our first responders. We pray that you would bless them and keep your hedge of protection around them. In the name of your only Son, amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Dickey.
Here.
Vice Mayor McMahon. Here. Councilmember Fidel.
Present.
Councilmember Guzbowski.
Present.
Councilmember Calavianakis.
Here.
Councilmember Toth.
Here.
Councilmember Skillicorn.
Here.
Thank you so much. Our first item, as always, are reports from mayor, council members, and town manager. Grady?
Yes, Mayor. I just had a few words I wanted to say. As many of you know, tonight is my last night. This will be my last, I should say, council meeting. And I just wanted to express to the council that I'm very grateful for the town council appointing me to serve as town manager, Fountain Hills. During the past 8 years, I've truly enjoyed working with 2 dedicated mayors and several council members, incredibly talented department directors, hardworking employees, and a highly engaged citizenry. I'm leaving Fountain Hills with great memories and the knowledge that I did my best in contributing to the overall quality of life for residents of Fountain Hills. I wish all of you well, and I wish interim town manager Rachel Goodwill, I wish interim town manager Rachel Goodwin and our staff every success. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman?
I just want to say, Grady, thank you for everything you've done for our town the past few years, and we will miss you. Thank you.
I attended the Irish Festival, I guess it's 2 weeks ago at this point, and of course the league calls. The chamber had a great State of the School with Dr. J last week, if I remember correctly. It's been within the last 2 weeks for sure, and that's always great to hear. I took some really good notes from that. And I'm also excited that the town of Fountain Hills is a part of the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History's exhibit called Lights Out: Recovering Our Night Sky. If you haven't heard anything about that yet, you can see a news blip about it on the town website. You can see it on the main page. And I don't want to not say anything to Grady. He knows that I appreciate him. He and I have already had a nice little chat. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I attended the Youth Drug Coalition annual luncheon for the essay awards given out to a few of the students at the high school. They were excellent essays. They were about how social media adversely affects them. So impressive. We have invited them to share their essays at our next CARES forum about mental health. And that's on April 20th at the community center. It's at 6:30, and we hope you all attend. Thank you. Also, I did attend the Irish Fest. I volunteered at the town table, and that was really fun. Also, we had a dementia-friendly committee meeting. We're still working on the application to become a dementia-friendly town, and we look forward to that happening really, really soon. I also attended the Valley Metro Board of Directors meeting. And we are working with the legislature to get proposition readied and passed so that hopefully it will, Valley Metro will remain receiving 40% because that's what it needs to operate. Munch and Music was last Friday. That was in the community center. That was an excellent concert, very, very well done. And also Fountain Hills Day. That was a great success, I think. It was really, really good to walk around and speak with all the business owners and see how excited they are about showcasing their business. In fact, I would like Amanda, if you don't mind, to please speak with Betsy at the chamber and see maybe if instead of it being annually, it might be semi-annually, because a few of the business members said something to me about that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming, and for you at home. Over the past 2 weeks, I've been very busy. I had a chance to attend the Council on Foreign Relations Civic Responsibilities. It was a Zoom meeting. It was very interesting. I got to take off something from my bucket list. I did something with the Council on Foreign Relations, so I have something to do with Henry Kissinger. How about that? This was a really interesting seminar. It was about expanding the idea of citizenship and ensuring the survival of the American democracy. The workshop was for a guide for elected officials, government staffers, their constituents across the political spectrum to heal divisions and safeguard our country's future. This thing was all about bringing people together, bringing politicians together, and healing previous divisions. It was a very powerful presentation, and I really appreciated it. The analogies could be made about the World War II, where we were at war with Japan, Germany, and Italy in a death struggle, and 60 years later, we're all allies and we're all friends. And so divisions can be overcome, people can heal and come together for the betterment of the world and for their town. So that was a pleasure to go to. Over the past couple weeks, Amanda Jacobs, Betsy from the Chamber, and I have been involved in the Business Development Initiative. The Fountain Hills Strategic Plan specifically mentions business development. That's what this is a part of. The current program initiated by Amanda Jacobs is in line with our town's strategic plan. The past several weeks, Amanda, myself, and Betty, who represented the Chamber, has been reaching out to business owners on a one-to-one basis and offering them assistance, information, and about the resources that are available for those businesses. I'm happy to report the business community has been extremely happy with this outreach, and we are doing good by our local businesses. So thank the Chamber, thanks Amanda for putting this wonderful program together. Also last Friday, I was involved in the Meals on Wheels program, which is sponsored by the Community Center, where we deliver meals to people that are over 80 years old and infirm. Helen Keller said the true happiness is not attained through self-gratification, but through fidelity to worthwhile causes. This is a very worthwhile cause. These people, sometimes we're the only contact they get in a week. They're very grateful that we engage them in conversation. And it's funny because a lot of them say, hey, I've seen you on TV or in the newspaper. I didn't know that was a duty of the town council. And so it's kind of cute when they say that. But that's a great program, so happy to be proud to be a part of that. Also attended the Munch and Music. Excellent program again. This is something for people that don't know about it. It's free to the public. It's very professionally level entertainment. There's only going to be one more, and that's going to be next month, which would be the Fountain Hills Saxophone Quartet. If you haven't seen them, you have to go. It's just wonderful. I have played with the Fountain Hills Saxophone Quartet myself, and this is a great group of musicians, and they're very talented, and I suggest that you go. Two more quick things is I did meet with Lieutenant Halverson about our school safety program. We've been tweaking it a little bit. We were denied the funding for the Department of Education grant for another school resource officer, but we haven't given up. Grady's been stalwart and leading the effort, as well as John Perez from our staff and Libby Settle. I'm happy to say that this program has been a great success. The police officers are involved in the schools now during high visible areas. When they go to school during the lunches, they're doing perimeter checks, background checks, every check you can imagine to keep our kids safe. And so that's really important. Thank the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office for being such a wonderful player in that. The last thing is I did attend Fountain Hills Days and met a lot of people. They had a lot of questions about what's going on in the town and the town council. It was a great thing. I also attended the Kite Festival on Saturday, which is the Pakistani Information and Cultural Organization, PICO, and they held their Kite Festival, which is a celebration of many Asian countries for the spring ceremony. I did get a chance to meet the organizers of PICO. I tried to do an outreach with the community and with the Pakistani community. It's pakistaninformation.org if you want more details, and to do an outreach to our Muslim community, because many of them are Muslims. I think it's good for the town council to reach out to underserved communities. And so I'm working with them right now to get a list of possibly people in our town that do worship as Muslims, and to maybe do a meet and greet or some kind of a forum with them. Anyway, so that's what I've been up to. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's right. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Welcome, everyone. I will be brief, and I don't need to comment on all the wonderful activities we have a couple of weeks we had in town here, but I did have an opportunity to attend Arizona Forward Forum with the Arizona Chamber of Commerce, kind of a big picture of economic development here in Arizona and what's been going on behind the scenes there. And I will conclude it with that.
Thank you. Jerry, do you have anything for the activities?
Yes, Mayor, I did attend the Irish Fest as well, and also Fountain Hills Days, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was great because, the weather's been so sketchy, but somehow the weekends are working out. So we had so many great events, and the Kite Festival was nice and windy, so it was very neat. Part of my membership with the Mayor's Educational Roundtable is I decided to go to it was called Education Forward Arizona, Helios Education Foundation's Billions to Gain convening, and it's the economic benefits of investing in a more educated Arizona. They had panelists from the governor's office, from NAU, school districts, the Board of Regents, cities and counties, and businesses that were describing their ways of getting their graduation rates and their post-secondary participation increased. Superintendent Tom Horn was one of the speakers, and we heard from students and the experiences that led them to get their attainment, so it was very nice. And then also we had our CIP, our capital improvement plan special meeting, and we'll have one for the budget in between, and then we'll get it all together in time for May. Then our next item is the scheduled public appearances, and today we are going to hear from Bo Larson about our Fountain Hills Connect. Grady, would you like to introduce?
Yes, just real quickly as an introduction to this. So what you're about to see is the presentation of a new system that has launched, and we were using a previous system that was built into our website that residents were able to report problem conditions and complaints. And so our community relations director, Bo Larson, is going to show you some highlights of the new system and how it works and how this is a big improvement from what we had previously. With that, I'll turn it over to Bo.
Thank you, Grady, and Mayor and Town Council, thank you. And I have to correct you, it's not live yet, but we're working towards it, so I really appreciate it. And what's the genesis of all of this is that we're seeing programs get older, systems get older. We use a program called Munis that may not be serviced anymore. It's like a Microsoft 7 and now you're on Microsoft 10 type of analogy. So it still works, but we're being prepared and we're using a program that we know will take us into the future for the ability for residents to file their issues, not only for code enforcement, but for streets and community services as well. So let me show you a little bit of what's going on. This is what we currently have. This is like the request tracker. That's what we currently use. And so when a resident or somebody comes online, this is how they get it. And so they're seeing some of the things that they have to do. Now, one of the downsides of this program is this. You have to sign in. So it makes it's kind of a cumbersome system. Now, people can call in, and the majority of code enforcement complaints are done by phone. However, this new system is something that's going to help improve the transparency as well as the efficiency of everything. It's called See, Click, Fix, though that's the program we're using, but we're calling it Fountain Hills Connect. And this was kind of a team name, and nothing's final until it's final, of course, but we came up with that to using kind of a common theme that towns from around the country are using that use this program. And so we didn't want to be Fountain Hills 311 because you always have to explain what 311 is. But what this is like a hub. This isn't a program that fixes everything. It's a work management system that people can input information, and then our teams can manage the issues from this database or this home page and assign the issues to the appropriate either department or the person to fix it. As it shows here, the web portal, it's a phone app as well. It's for reporting as well as taking phone calls, or you can manage phone calls off of the system. And so through this system, and it's not all there yet, we're working on it, but we can assign the work assignments. We can let departments know, like you said, if there's a new pothole somewhere, if someone reports it in, they can see if someone has already reported it or if it's a new request, and then the town can work towards it. And that's just one of 50, 60 things that can be requested. It's a phone app as well. I get a lot of iPhone requests for Request Tracker right now, and they come to me. And then I forward them off to Vince in the department, and he takes care of it with his team. But this app will also act as the online system does as well. And since the majority, I think we're up to like 75% of people are using their phones over computers right now, it only makes sense that we kind of catch up. So when someone comes to a page, make sure I'm on something missed. No, got it. When someone comes to our page now, they can see a map, and they can see like, well, I know I have a request. I don't know exactly where it is on the street here, but I know landmarks. And so there's another way that they can look to see where they can kind of pin where this incident is, because they may not have the address specifically, but they can do geographical locations. It also allows people to go, well, gee, I see that a street lamp is out, for example, and this is from Gilbert, just as an example. Has someone else already filed this complaint or this issue? And this will allow people to go, okay, it's already being worked on. I don't need to wait, continue on, filling this out. But if it is something new, they can see like, well, I don't see it here, so I might as well complete it. And so they put in the request. It's a real simple, clean system. I showed you that page before that was a little cumbersome on the request tracker. This is a much cleaner system, and when you see it in life, it's a lot bigger than what you're seeing here on the screen, of course. It allows people to add a photo, which is a nice system instead of always having to do an attachment or something. And if there's no photo, that's fine too. But what's important too is when you put in the details in the description, you have to put in your name. No more anonymous requests, because it's real easy to pick on a neighbor and start those battles with neighbors when you don't have a name on there. So in order for our town or our team to work on this, you have to put in your name. Now, it's not going to be used anywhere else but within the town. It's all part of making sure that people's information is safe and they feel comfortable knowing that it's not going to be shared with anyone. They can still complain about the neighbor, but they have to put their own name in. Now, this is an idea. This kind of shows you the behind the scenes. This is what the team would see as part of the work orders. They may see, and again, we're still new and there's still a lot of tests, and these are off of a test page. But just give you an idea of like, okay, what types of things do we have going on? Who is it going to be assigned to? What's the priority? And so that they can manage this workflow a lot better. It also, for the team, it also has a map to kind of identify where are some of these things, because we have 3 code enforcement team members right now, and I'm just using code enforcement as the example. We can color assign these dots, and so we know where Bo is working and where Bo number 2 is working, and so on, so that if something new comes along, it could even be a phone call to say, hey, this is what's going on. Can you go out there and check it out, for us? And then also, here's more of the kind of the work flow pattern showing what's being worked on, what are some of the notes, and the work orders. And you're only getting a snippet of the page that they actually have, but it will give you an idea that it's a much more modern system. And just to let you know, we're not the Lone Ranger on this. There's many other organizations using this, from McDOT down to Peoria. So it's a good system. It's clean. We hope to get it up within the next, I'm going to say 30 days. They're real close right now. It's just a matter of fine-tuning and making sure we're comfortable with how the app works and looks. And so we're in that phase right now. So, any questions? No?
Oh.
I'm giving you a chance. All right. Good. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bo. Our next item, really appreciate it, by the way. So we didn't have questions, but we know that this is a good step in the right direction for communication and following up on some of these things. So great. Thank you so much.
So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Our call to the public, did we have any speaker cards today?
Yes, Mayor, we do.
Thank you.
Crystal Kavanaugh.
I was asked to remind people to speak into the mic. I guess sometimes people at home aren't hearing very well, so thank you.
Good evening, Fountain Hills resident. The property of 16927 East Saguaro, which was marketed as a potential wellness rehab property, is zoned as C-O commercial office. In our existing clearly defined ordinance, C-O is meant for well-designed, attractive businesses that meet criteria for professional or semi-professional offices that transition between other commercial land uses and residential neighborhoods. It specifically lists business types that conform to this zone, such as accountants, doctors, dentists, chiropractors, engineers, private detectives, lawyers, and financial institutions. The only type of counseling services allowed is for marital counseling. An application for a business license to operate here absolutely should not be approved. It is an easy decision for the town staff. Deny unless it conforms to the zone. And they should not be allowed to deceive by using the generic broad brush description of counseling. They need to be specific in their business description in order to best serve the interests of our residents. Their NPI number tells you what their field is. Angel Heart Health Services has a taxonomy provider number associated with being an addiction or substance use disorder counselor. Their state licensing encompasses addiction, substance abuse, and/or behavioral health services, including crisis intervention, mental health, stabilization, intensive in-home therapy, and day treatment. The owners are behavioral and analysts. Plain and simple, behavioral health services do not conform to this zoning, even when they call it counseling. We have an ordinance that clearly states where behavioral health can occur, and it cannot occur in C-O. To those staff that are involved, what more is there to evaluate? Why should residents have to worry that you'd consider approving this? Do you think that you can just expand an existing ordinance on your own without input? And why does Angel Heart have medical staff on board if they only offer marital counseling? Any behavioral health occurring in this location is a clear zoning violation. To John Wesley and town staff, you have been provided with extensive information about Angel Heart Health Services. The work and research was done for you by others. Angel Heart's own website tells you exactly what services they provide, behavioral health. The town needs to follow the zoning ordinance we have on the books, represent the residents, and deny a business license to a non-conforming business. There is zero plausible deniability if you approve this. All interested parties have now been made well aware of what services this business provides. Thank you.
Next, we have Larry Myers.
Mayor, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, it gives me no pleasure to stand here meeting after meeting stating the obvious to elected officials, that they serve at the pleasure of the people, the key word being serve. I'm certain that uninformed town staff have possibly misled that what you're being served with currently is of no value. On the contrary, this notice that I will hand out tonight has its base in the Arizona Constitution, of which, as an elected official, you swore an oath to. Delivered to you, council and staff on the dais as we speak, are copies of such notice submitted by residents of Fountain Hills stating once again the obvious, that under provisions of the Arizona Constitution, after having supplied voluminous amounts of research on the subject of a business license being issued for this particular use in this commercial zone, that the decision does not rest with an unelected staff member, but rather with the input from the people, discussion by the council, perhaps first in an executive session, and then being placed on a future agenda for discussion and possible action. Further, Town Manager Miller has stated to Senator Kavanaugh that the unelected Town Services Director, Mr. Wesley, has the power to expand the ordinance to include this use. We, the people, think not. Arizona Constitution, Article 2, Section 8, quote, "Please notice that any proposed franchise which disturbs or adversely affects the people in their private affairs or causes any disturbance or has adverse effects on home or property is without authority in law." The residents, the people, have expressed such concern with this notice tonight and request that the council take this under advisement by instructing Town Services Director Wesley to stay the issuance of such business license until council has had a chance to discuss this issue in its entirety, place it on the next agenda for public input and discussion, at which time an informed decision can be made by elected officials, not staff, based on town ordinances currently codified. Thank you for your time once again.
Next, we have Bobby Kinnemer.
Good evening. Grady, I never had the opportunity to work with you, but thank you for everything you did for our town. Again, Bobby Kinnemer. I live in Sunridge Canyon. I also serve on the board. And I'm still very, very concerned about this park that we're talking about. I haven't seen the new drawings. I would love to see them. I get questions frequently about what is that park going to look like. Most of the people, again, do not want it. We just don't want it. And I know that we had proposed either making it a permanent preserve or possibly buying it back at a reasonable price. And I haven't heard anything back from that. And I just wanted to make sure that you guys understand that this is in the heart of our community, and we really want to see what it's going to look like. And another thing that I'm concerned about, when I went back, I think it was at a retreat that you guys had, it said something in there about, you know, this is what we're going to do right now. It's going to be trails, but then we'll leave it open to make future improvements. Well, that concerns me. I want to know what that's going to look like. And I think it's pretty reasonable because it's right in the heart of our neighborhood. So that's what I wanted to get up and talk to you guys about. Thank you.
Mayor, if you don't mind, I'll have Ms. Goodwin get with her. Maybe if you don't mind going to the back of the room, and Ms. Goodwin can talk to you a little bit more about it and how you can obtain what we have currently on drawings.
Next, we have Jerry Butler.
Mayor, Council, thank you for this opportunity. Tonight I'm standing here as a 24-year full-time resident of Fountain Hills. When my wife and I moved here in 1999, we knew absolutely nothing about this town, and thus we promised each other that if we did not like it, after 2 years, we would leave. As you can see, we're still here. We love this town. And we immersed ourselves in the community by volunteering in countless ways. So tonight, maybe I'm here talking about volunteers in the community. During our 20-plus years of involvement in Fountain Hills, we have worked with 5 town managers, and without a doubt, the one on the dais tonight is the best. Thank you, Grady. I know it's been reported that he chose to retire, but personally, I don't believe that. Yes, Fountain Hills will move on next month without him, but not at the same pace, in my opinion. When Grady leaves, important background information and synergy will leave with him, and it will take years to recover at a huge price tag. Over the years, I've had the privilege to work with Grady on numerous projects, and without a doubt, he has been the most responsive, always addressing questions in timely ways, even on weekends. And I must add, always very professionally. While we have not always agreed on the approach to each topic at the beginning, his thoughtful explanations always made sense, and the outcome was right on target. Fountain Hills always ended up being the beneficiary of his decisions. I never sensed that this was ever a job, a job for him. It was his passion to do what was right in Fountain Hills. In closing, Grady, thank you for everything you've done for our community. Without a doubt, our loss will be another community's gain. You will be missed. Thank you.
Next, we have Liz Gildersleeve.
Good evening. Mr. Myers recommended during his call to public tonight that the business license for the Saguaro property be added to a future town agenda, or a future town council agenda before a decision is made on the application. I support that. We need to know why our own town staff even considered for one moment the idea of not applying the zoning ordinance to this property. This is so wrong. If this is the precedent, why have zoning ordinances at all? I hope we can all agree that ignoring our own zoning ordinances is not good for our town. Please add this business application to a future town council meeting agenda. That would be the prudent thing to do. Given what residents have mentioned tonight, it needs serious daylight before a decision can be made. Thank you.
Next, we have Lori Troller.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Grady, Aaron. And referring back to my last call to the public regarding the moratorium, I was advised that automatic moratoriums are put in place when ordinances are being updated, and that's highly unusual. So that was researched in code and policy, and that wasn't found anywhere. So if anybody can quote that as policy, I'd appreciate that, and if not, I respectfully request for a second time that a moratorium be placed on telecommunication interactions, that being applications, permitting, and installations. Thank you.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, as you know, I've been in trial the last couple of weeks, so I haven't had an opportunity to send out a response. I did take that to our consultant and have a response for you and a proposed course of action, so I'll go ahead and share that this week. Thank you for your patience.
Next, we have Ed Stizza.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Town Council and staff. I'm going to talk about a couple things that seem to continuously bubble to the surface, and they fall under aesthetic. But I can say one thing, there is nothing more important than what Larry, Liz, and Crystal have talked about tonight. So we have got to protect the town. I said it at the last P&Z meeting. I'm going to say it over and over again. It's time for you all to make a decision on which side of the fence you're on. Either you're going to do everything you possibly can to protect this town, the aesthetic, our dark skies, our quality and way of life. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, and we constantly supersede it. So, now going back to the aesthetic. So, we seem to be in a tremendous downfall as far as trying to blend new construction projects into our town aesthetic. And I've been here on and off for almost 23 years. And I can't believe what is happening. So, and it's accelerated. So all you have to do is open your eyes, drive around, and see what's happening. So if somebody could please tell me that they really think that this town is being blended aesthetically, then please give me the reasons that you think that, all right? So I want to give kudos to Rachel and Kevin Snipes for pushing, even with all the naysayers, pushing along the skate park. And that seems to be accelerating, which is great. And by the way, thank you for turning up the gain on the microphone. So that's great, so everybody can hear. So a couple things with the aesthetic. If you guys haven't looked collectively, take a good look. And one of those things I'm gonna just beg this town council to do is initiate a painting ordinance. I don't know what designer thinks that desert colors and blending black, white, and gray with white stripes is conducive to making our town as best as possible. So I really want somebody to step up and take a look at our ordinance. It's extremely vague, extremely vague. So maybe somebody can get on top of that. The other projects that are going on, we already know about Adaro Canyon. I mean, the destruction of Adaro Canyon should never have been allowed. So, and I mean, it takes longer to do it the other way. And obviously up in Golden Eagle Estates, we see the end result of that. Adaro Canyon was allowed by this town to strip mine all that land and destroy Adaro Canyon, the luscious canyon in the McDowells. So that's another one that falls under aesthetic. So, oh, am I? Oh my God, I didn't hear the buzzer. I'm sorry, Mayor. Oh my gosh. Oh, I didn't even, I should have seen the red light. Anyway, thank you. Have a good.
Matthew Corrigan.
Madam Mayor, council members, I have spoken to the council and the mayor before here publicly about the issue of detox housing and so on. And the old adage about well said is well done. Well, I don't need to repeat what's been well said. And I think Crystal and Larry and Liz have encapsulated that into a succinct message. And that is on the Saguaro property, take a good hard look at that, remember and consider what Larry has presented. And saying that, I'll just have a seat and let the process move on. Thank you.
Mayor, that's it for public, call to the public.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you all. Our next item are consent agenda items. As always, if anybody has anything they'd like to take off, they can. Otherwise, could I get a motion?
To approve consent agenda.
Move to approve? Or is that what you just did? Okay, Peggy did that, I'll second then.
Thank you. All in favor, roll call, please.
Councilmember Toth.
Aye.
Councilmember Grzybowski.
Aye.
Councilmember Fidel.
Aye.
Councilmember Kalavianakis.
Aye.
Councilmember Skillicorn.
Yes.
Vice Mayor McMahon. Aye. Mayor Dickey.
Aye.
It passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Our first item on our regular agenda is approval of our proposed Fountain Hills logo. straight to Amanda, huh? Oh, thank you.
I'm back to talk about the logo. All right, good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. So again, we're here tonight to talk about the Fountain Hills proposed logo. I'm going to give, just in case there's someone new in the audience or new watching from home, just a little bit of background of where we've been and where we're heading. All right, so back last February during a council retreat, it got brought up to look at our branding and logos. And the why behind it was, as you can see, there are several logos that the town was using. We have our town seal, which is 33 years old. If then you look to the right, the script logo, as we've been calling it, that's been used for about 2 to 3 years. The Fountain Hills, where I call it the polka dots, I'm not sure how long we've been using that. Couldn't find that record. And then the Fountain Hills Economic Development was created back in 2014, but I will admit and share with you, I have not been using it. I've been using the script logo. And so when there's so many different logos put out there, we don't know who Fountain Hills is. So it sort of begs the question of, will the real Fountain Hills please stand up? And wanting some consistency. And so when I was hired last March, Grady and I spoke about this, and I agreed that we should move forward. Also, when we're looking at a brand and moving forward, we need to look at our competition. As you can see with Gilbert, Phoenix, Tempe, Chandler, Mesa, they've become more modern. It's a symbol. When you see the Phoenix symbol, you don't need to know where it is, right? They have that brand identity. And you'll also start to see that municipalities are moving away from town of, city of, because then it's kind of very government-y, official. And so they've moved away from that to be more welcoming as a community. And then let's face it, some people don't really trust the government. And so those are some of the reasons behind it. So back in June, we did a professional RFP process. Again, we had 6 folks submit a bid. We narrowed it down to 1. It was issued to Gordley Group. Part of their initial process was conducting a survey. It was out for about 2 weeks. As you'll see, and they mentioned to you in January, they anticipated, just with their 20 to 30 year history, 50 responses. Well, our folks are a little bit interested. We've received 754 responses and 5,000 comments. Additionally, we also had 3 different focus groups. Some was geared towards residents, businesses, and then our government officials. I've been the lead on this project with my partner in crime, Bo Larson. And so we started to see, this was going to take a little bit longer than anticipated. So we also included our council-elects, which is now the council, and so had those focus groups. So from there, Gordley Group started to put together some design concepts. So on January 17th, council was presented with option A and then option B. So option B, there really was no consensus to move forward with it. There's sort of kinda a fountain, but hard to see. It's really showing the natural beauty, the sunshine, the mountains. And so just going back real fast, council did not take action that night, but we felt we had a good consensus to move forward with the consultant on modifying this logo. So wanting to see mountains. Could we do something with dark skies? Could we add color? And again, I just want to point out, one of the reasons that staff like this so much is it's modern. When you look at it, some art is in the eye of the beholder. You can see the fountain, and we feel like with the 3, there is almost that movement, which sometimes we see that shift as the mountain goes off. So based off of council direction, we went to work. And so I reached out to the town council and asked if you guys would meet with me one-on-one or in pairs. And so you'll see at the bottom, So the left, what happened was the consultant added the 4 peaks, and you can see a little shadowing of the lake. And they also created an entirely different logo. There's different variations, but all of them could be used. But if you look to the bottom right, there's some stars and a tribute to the dark sky. During my one-on-one conversations with council, everyone still leaned more towards option A, although some shared with me, hey, if the group likes option B, we can go with that too. It's beautiful because it's showing, again, the fountain and the 4 peaks. So some of the comments I received to make additional changes was part of our iconic fountain is the lily pad or base. Some people call it a little bit different. But also, could we do anything else with the what we're going to call the spray, those 3 symbols? So a few more weeks went by. And so we've got some more additions. Unfortunately, it didn't work out nicely, so it took a little while to get with council's schedule as well as mine. So you'll see the first one, variation concept 1, 2, we have added the lily pad. The lily pad was added to option 2, and then the consultant presented a 3rd option, and then I'll just share with you, all of you did not like option 3, but just for transparency for all of you and the public, showing it. So showing that different direction of the spray. So based on, again, everyone was leaning towards option A. I understand a couple people still really weren't sure about the spray. And so we started moving in the direction of bringing this forward to council. So over the weekend, I did receive a couple of inquiries from council of, I'm still not so sure about the fountain. And so we now have another iteration. I apologize that you're now seeing this. I got this in my hands this morning, how to modify the PowerPoint. So again, hopefully you'll see that dark line is the fountain, and then sort of the spray and mist, those 2 lighter lines. And again, to just sort of show the transformation to the council, the public, here are all of the options. Staff is recommending option 2 or 3. And then we are hoping and respecting that you guys will be able to take action tonight, because part of, again, the $20,000 that has been invested in this project is a 3rd phase. So that 3rd phase is called implementation. And so what's going to happen is the consultant will produce a brand style guide. They're also going to build templates to start using this. And again, we need to make sure that this transfers to clothing, to a business card, the stationery, so print and web design. And with that, but I'll just leave this up. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the logo or help with a motion. Again, we're respectfully requesting option A, but there's still B and C in your packets. Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. What I'll do is see if we have any speaker cards first, and then we will ask you questions and discuss.
At your dais is a comment. They're not going to speak, but they just wanted to give their thoughts on option A. They vote for option A. Hopefully, they're still voting for that option A now that we have a 3rd option in there. And then speaking, we have Ed Stizza. Oh, and that public comment was from Liz Gildersleeve.
I'm so excited about that. Okay, so what do I say without being, again, derogatory? Is this the vibrancy? Talk about aesthetic. Maybe there's something within these designs that might work. I mean, obviously our logos here have lasted because they seem to have worked. Certainly our town seal still looks official, or at least I think it does, and certainly seems to carry the weight. Again, this is such a major decision. You're changing the whole look at Fountain Hills. in so many different ways, in so many different prints, and it's going to go all over the place. So I just wish there was more time spent on such a major decision that is going to end up being adopted for some time. This isn't something you're going to change right away. So again, colors, oh my gosh, I don't know what to say. I really don't. I know it's opinion. I really understand. I understand everybody wants something more modern. I understand that the town would not be part of this, right? So as far as it's not going to say town of Fountain Hills, is that correct? So, but if there's just some more thought put into it, it would really be nice to see more color options. This still seems to just stand there, and it doesn't jump out. Certainly the one logo with the stars in it seemed to start to go down another path, but it needs some more color. I mean, again, color's everything, and like I was talking about earlier with the town. So, and again, oh, I meant to say also thank you to the town staff and council for working on which this fall, as far as the CIP budget. Thank you. So anyway, I hope you guys take a look at this a little bit stronger.
That's it for public comment on this item.
Thank you. Amanda, would you address the color, please, and also answer about whether town of is going to remain, or is that something we're discussing as well?
Madam Mayor, so what is before you, we have kept town of, as you'll see. So if you approve that, it will say town of Fountain Hills, unless you tell us otherwise. And what was the other question, Madam Mayor? Oh, the colors.
Color, yeah.
So it is always tricky to show color. So we got direction on January 17th to show color. We will, once we get direction, we'll play with more color options, but that's again towards the implementation. As you'll see, there's been 3 variations, 2 new logos. If we don't start moving the needle, I will have to come back to you for more money. And I'm trying to keep it at the 20,000 with the other phases. But yes, there will be additional colors options. And then also to remind everybody, this is going on, let's just say, different ads. Sometimes you're not going to use the full color because it could start to compete. So you may use a white, you may use a black. And that's where we leave it up to the graphic design professionals.
Thank you. So basically, you always wanted us to look at logos using all the same colors so that we weren't making a decision based on, I like red better than blue, or I like purple better than whatever. So these are purposely this way so that we're really focusing on the logo. But depending on if it's a shirt or whatever, or a piece of paper, it's going to be different colors. And then the official seal, we will continue to use that as our official seal. So we'll have that, and then we'll have this new, more updated one.
So that's correct. I failed to mention that. So we'll continue to use the town seal in official capacity, so when it makes sense. But let's just say I am writing a letter or doing a presentation, and I've shared this with most of you. The day after our first conversations one-on-one, I had the opportunity, thanks to the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, to actually give a pitch to over 10 site selectors from all over the United States. So again, we're trying to appeal to employers, employees, create that sense of place, try to attract and bring some young professionals. So this is, again, art is in the eye of the beholder, but this is a little bit more hip than the town seal, and I don't mean any disrespect.
Thank you. I see lit up Councilmember Friedel. Would you like to comment?
That's actually me. I noticed that they switched the cards, so I didn't want to just like switch it in the middle of my having the button pressed, but I can do that.
Councilwoman Grzybowski.
First, I really appreciate the fact that we're trying to make a more modern, current version of the logo. Like you say, we need to attract some younger people into town. If we don't, then there may not be anybody left in town. So it's important to keep the younger people in. That being said, thank you, Grady. I'll swap it out in a second. That being said, I have not consulted with the two people that I told you about the last meeting that called this the Sydney Opera House and the napkin holder. But I do feel like we've lost those two things that those people confided in me about. And I still like A. I'm leaning towards 3. I kind of like how the back end, you can see that it's the mist that gets lighter in the background. And I don't mind dropping the town of. Honestly, most people don't understand the difference between a city and town in any state. So I feel like just saying Fountain Hills, just like all the other people are dropping it, I don't have a problem with it at all.
You can see me nodding along because I'm still just as giddy as when I saw this the first time. And then the version 3, I love even more because it completely takes out that napkin holders in the Opera House thing we're kind of worried about. But I am so thrilled that we have the lily pad in there. I think that is such a staple of the community. I love it. Option A, version 3. I'm all for it.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Yeah, it's funny because I pulled out the February 1st edition of the Fountain Hills Times today. I just wanted to review what they thought about it. And I know it did get a mediocre review, but I see you've done a lot of work on this, and I really appreciate that. Yeah, quoted in that article was Councilwoman Drozowski that did mention the napkin holder and the Sydney Opera House. And so I'm glad that you took that to heart. I think we all kind of had a good laugh that night, and I think it was funny. But you seem to capture the essence of our guidance. I do like number 3, the variation number 3. That looks good. I might tweak it a little bit and make the fountain go a little up higher, and then with the splash, because it looks like it's going on the side right now. And so if we could kind of tweak that, that would be great. But I overall, I think that's a much more improved one that I think that I could live with too. As far as the town of, when you showed us our competition, I'm not sure if they're our competition, but you showed them to us, and Tempe, Gilbert, I kind of like that, and so I would be for removing the town of and just put Fountain Hills on there, and I think it's cleaner, it's a better look. So thank you for all the hard work that you've done. I can see it in the work product.
Yes, I had. Lori Troller would like to speak.
I'm not taken away from your work at all. This is a lot, I know. But just me looking at this, this is just an aesthetic thing. The ones on the top, and I can't unsee the napkin holder. It's a 3D dimensional thing, and the base, that being the fountain itself, is also 3D. But on the 3 lower, version 1, 2, and 3, the mountains are straight on flat. So is the base of the fountain, yet the spray is 3-dimensional. So if we're tweaking things, I would kind of tweak the base to be a little more 3-dimensional. That might be a little easier on the eye, because up top that looks nice. It's all kind of at that same angle. It looks like it's coming up from a little high. But when you see the lower ones, it's like on the bottom, it's just too straight on the mountains and too straight on the base. Very sorry to have done that. It's just that's a thing to my eye, but I think they're neat. But I do love the old emblem, and that's really weird that I would do that because that's not me. But I'm glad we're keeping that in capacity. So, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Amanda, for all your hard work. I like the original A. I think it's much more sophisticated, and I think it's in line more with the logo as well that we currently have, and hopefully we're still going to use that particular one. I like I guess it was, if we have to go with having the mountains behind it, the B one, because I think it's more 3D. The last one, I think it looks more like a loop versus a fountain, even though it fades. I don't think it has the same 3D effect, to use her verbiage. But again, I prefer A, but thank you so much for all your hard work. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Jerry, did you have anything?
I liked option 3 the best out of all of them. I think, Amanda, you captured everything everybody brought up, the lily, the mountains, and then the redefined fountain. So good job, well done, and thank you for your hard work.
Thank you. I liked the first one, you know, straight off the bat, and I also like variation 2, but sounds like everybody likes variation 3. I don't know, I get what you're saying about making it more straighter, but I don't know if we're to the point of fooling around with it anymore, so I think variation 3 sounds like the go-to, and also I'm okay with taking town of out. I like that, just Fountain Hills, so did you feel like, well, should we do that like as an amendment or something, like when we do the motion?
Yeah, so Madam Mayor, if someone wants to make a motion, if you could just say, I approve option A, variation 3, with the removal of town of. Aaron?
Oh. Go ahead, Brenda.
Okay. Yeah, I think we hit the trigger at the same time. I guess as you work with the company, could you have them straighten that out a little bit more? I mean, is that within the realm of reason?
So yeah, Madam Mayor, Councilmember Calavianakis, so yes, even though this is what you're approving and it's like somewhat final, again, we're gonna continue to work on colors. We'll modify sort of the direction. And again, if they start to say we can't do this, I'll make sure to keep you apprised, because there were some things they couldn't do today. I won't get into, because again, don't want to put additional visuals out there besides the fancy napkin holder. But yes, so there's still that option.
That'd be really appreciated, because I think it also would take, I don't know, you said a loop, that would kind of help that part of it too. So it's almost the same as the other one, except, you know, it's not going to have that, that same 3D look to it. So, somebody want to make the motion? Sharon?
Move to approve option A, variation 3 of the new Fountain Hills logo with the exception of the words town of.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. A roll call, please.
Councilmember Grzybowski.
Aye.
Councilmember Fidel.
Aye.
Councilmember Calavianakis.
Aye.
Councilmember Skillicorn.
Yes.
Councilmember Toth.
Aye.
Vice Mayor McMahon. Mayor Dickey.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, just one thing, don't get too excited that, again, we're gonna start using it. There's still some additional work we need to do with the implementation. So give myself, Bo, as well as the consultant about 30 to 45 days. But again, we'll keep you apprised and we'll make a big splash. Thank you.
Well, thank you. So now Bo and you give us great things that we can't use yet. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Our next item is a budget transfer. David, Grady, did you have just to intro?
No, Mr. Pock, our Chief Financial Officer, will give you an overview of these transfers and what they're for and why we're making these. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Pock.
Perfect. Mayor, Council, if you approve this, they'll be able to start using it tomorrow. So just so you know. I do not have a presentation for you, just what's in your packet as far as the transfers. There's 3. Obviously, the most substantial is the $3.7 million to the streets fund for pavement maintenance. And then there's 2 additional transfers, one for facilities ops to do some landscaping work here around town hall, and then 20,000 for economic development for marketing and advertising. So, is there any specific questions that you might have about any of those?
Not seeing any. Do we have any speaker cards?
We have one, Mayor, and it's Barry Wolborski.
I am Barry Wolborski, and I'm a resident of Fountain Hills, and I am the treasurer of the Sunridge Canyon Community Association. And of course, I'm going to talk about the park. Several members.
Sir, did you want to talk on this agenda item? Because that's.
Yeah, there's in the funding, there's funding for the park, which I would like removed.
I don't think there is any funding for the park in this particular thing. This is just moving. David, maybe.
Wasn't that addressed as a capital expenditure?
Maybe David could explain a little bit. Thanks.
So in this transfer, there's no transfers. There's only one transfer from the capital fund, which was taken from the project, the Golden Eagle Impoundment area, but there wasn't anything for Sunridge Park.
There was nothing in it?
Nope.
Okay, I'll sit down.
And the reason the Golden Eagle Impoundment was removed is we anticipated that construction would have been able to start this fiscal year, but it wasn't. So instead of letting that budget die there, we decided to move that into street.
I move to approve the attached budget transfers as requested.
I move to second.
Thank you. All in favor, please, a roll call?
Councilmember Friedel.
Aye.
Councilmember Calavianakis.
Aye.
Councilmember Skillicorn.
Aye.
Councilmember Toth.
Aye.
Councilmember Grzybowski.
Aye.
Vice Mayor McMahon.
Aye.
Mayor Dickey.
Aye. Thank you.
Passes unanimously.
Very good. Our next item is approving our proposed updates as discussed at our retreat. Grady?
Yes, Mayor. So what is before you, there were some what I call housekeeping items that we talked about before with the council. One specifically was scheduled public appearance that residents could ask to be added to a future agenda and be scheduled to speak. That was one of the items that we were recommending that we would remove. The other part of this is the distribution of notices and agendas. We are specifically asking for some changes there. Also, agenda preparation. And then also order of business for the agenda. We're recommending some other changes with that. I'm going to turn it over to Linda, our town clerk, who actually is the one who did the work on this, and she can go into a little bit of a presentation that she's prepared for this. With that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Mendenhall.
Cards anyway. What I know at the council retreat, we talked about certain items, but when I start looking at things, I start seeing other things, and I'm hoping you'll indulge me on a few of these changes. But I didn't get to do as many as I probably would have wanted to, just for the fact that we wanted to hurry up and get this out here and start moving forward since we just talked about it at the retreat. But there's certain things that it could be updating on page 1, as you see on page 1, and I have it up here so that our residents can see it as well. Just minor change. It's the 12th edition of Robert's Rules. So that's the first thing. And then on our page 2, we need to update our website, our web address. So it's just little items like that as well. And then on page 3, under quorum, I made a change to, we strike out the with a 7-member body, a quorum of 4, unless otherwise specifically authorized by state law, and change that with unless otherwise specified in state law or the town code, a quorum is the majority of members of the public body. This will help us if there was ever a vacancy or we have any disqualifications, so removing that language. And I also want to let you know, while I'm going through each one of these pages, if you've made any notes yourself, let me know, because I did bring my red pen. So I just want to go through each item just to bring it to your attention to see if you approve of it or not, and then we'll go on. I added the language on page 3 under regular meeting date and time, adding in compliance with state law.
Do you think we could make that, you're on page 3 now, right? Yeah, maybe you could advance that. Thanks.
Okay. And so it's in red, and we're on quorum, and then lower down under regular meeting, I add in compliance with state law. It's just other things, just to bring it up to date. On the next page, under special meeting, it talks about in case of an actual emergency. That's actually covered down in emergency meetings, so it doesn't really need to be there.
If I could, Ms. Mayor.
Sure.
Yeah, this is one of the ones that I use my little red pen on.
Okay. On page 4?
It's on 3.3 special meetings.
Okay.
I didn't know if there was another contingency for that, but, you know, if there was a EMP that went off and we lost all the power, I would hate to think we have to give 24 hours notice for us to have a meeting and set up a formal meeting with the council. So I guess my concern was if we had an actual emergency, would we have to have a 24-hour notice?
No, you don't need to have a 24-hour notice. If, let's say, something like the emergency electrical outage and we needed to have a quick meeting, we can have that meeting. It's posted as an emergency meeting, and it doesn't fall under the 24-hour notice requirement.
So that would be someplace else in the code?
It's in another area.
It's in the emergency meeting portion of it, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And then on page 5, that's just another update. Is that 5 up there? Okay, there it is. It's just changing the web's address to the new one. Page 6 is, this is where one of the items that we talked about at the council retreat. And this is where we're adding that future agenda item category. We're updating how a mayor and council members can bring an item forth. And so the mayor or a council member with the support of 2 additional council members may direct the town manager through the future agenda item category to place an item on the next available agenda for consideration and possible action. Do we have anything we want to say? Everyone okay with that? Okay. We also added, unless authorized by state law, under agenda preparation and availability. This is another section that we talked about at the retreat, and it's in reference to a citizen group, how they can get something on the agenda. When we were going to remove all of this information, but I think it's still important that the residents feel that they have an opportunity to bring an item forth, but we need to give some parameters for that. And so updating this portion of the language to citizen or group, a citizen or a group may request an item be placed on an agenda through the manager, mayor, or a council member as indicated above. And so let's say if you wanted to bring up an item because another, let's just say one of the people here told you about it, you could do that under the provision above about how a council member can put an item on the agenda. And then we would strike the scheduled public appearance language. This is just me. I noticed that the word advice should be advise, so I changed that. And then the next page, this is another item, and it wasn't really discussed at the retreat, but it's something that we need to think about with respect to handouts. I've been asked a few times about when we've had handouts from our council members and so forth, if that's appropriate to do. And it is appropriate, but maybe we could put in some language to help guide that so it looks like to minimize any potential open meeting law or any transparency issues. So I'll read this and see if, we can discuss it and see what your thoughts are on it. Mayor and council members. The mayor and council members may submit a written document handout for council's consideration regarding an item on the next council agenda. The document handout must be presented to the town clerk no later than 3 p.m. the day of the council meeting. Handouts submitted after the deadline will not be disseminated to the council for consideration at that meeting. That's not saying if you have notes, you can talk about your notes. The town clerk will place any council member's handouts along with any online public comment cards at each station on the dais prior to the council meeting and will announce the documents when the agenda item is under consideration. This process will ensure the town clerk has the written document handout for the permanent record, solve any transparency issues, minimize any potential meeting violations, and avoid any disruption during the council meeting. I wanted to get your thoughts on that and see.
Thank you. I agree with that because I think it's really important to be transparent and not just hand things out when we're in the middle of discussion or looking at something and have to read it, comprehend it, and say yay or nay to it. However, one thing I would like to see changed is I would, instead of 3 p.m. the day of, I would prefer to see it by 5 o'clock p.m. on Monday, the day before the meeting, because then, usually we're all preparing, I hope, over the weekend and stuff on Monday for the council meeting. And if there are going to be any additional handouts, I would like to have them available the day before so that I could take them into consideration when I'm reviewing the agenda items. I think that would be fair to ask of everybody.
What does the rest of the group think? I can get a consensus on that.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Yeah, this was another one that I read lighted. I think that I don't like the 3 p.m. I think that it should be up until the time of the meeting and then cut off at maybe 5:30, 5:25, just to be fair to you. Someplace right before the meeting begins, I think that'd be more fair. Then the other concern I have is in the past when I've had a motion to amend, according to Robert's rules, if you have a simple, and Aaron, you could probably weigh in on this, if you have a simple motion to amend, if you want to strike out a word or add a phrase, that can be done verbally. But if you've got a complicated motion to amend, the Robert's rules want you to put it in writing because it gets complicated. And so, on the other hand, a lot of times these things, they just take a life of their own. You've got a motion to amend, it comes back, you want to do a re-amendment, so you can't anticipate every amendment during a meeting that you might have during the meeting. So how do we address that if these things have to be turned in before the meeting? It would seem to contravene the rules of the Roberts rules of providing complicated amendments in writing.
So, Mayor and Council, I think there's two parts of an answer to that question. And I don't want to speak for Linda because she was the one that prepared this document, but I think it probably doesn't convolute the need to, if there's need for substantial written amendments. I mean, I'm assuming we're not writing those during the meeting, so if you have them to print out and bring, then I guess that would fall under the scope of what the town clerk is talking about. You're absolutely right that if there's a simple, motion to amend, a word change or to change some aspect of it, those of course should be done orally, right here in the meeting. I would agree with that.
And I would agree with that as well.
Short amendment, not a big deal. Verbally, I totally agree with that. If it's going to be a lengthy page, I do support bringing it to us the day before so we have an entire day to review it. When I get emails at 3 o'clock or after 3 o'clock on council day, I very rarely read them. I might notice it, but I very rarely have a chance to actually open my email and review it. let alone wanting to open up a PDF from my phone if I'm actually already on my way here or whatever. So I would also appreciate the day before, giving us the entire day of to review, and then if we have any questions, we can consult the director of whatever department we need to do, or if we have permission, consult the town attorney or whatever person put it together. I don't know how that kind of stuff would work. But inevitably, we may have questions, and asking us to review something right here, right now, sitting on the dais that's lengthy, I think that you're putting undue pressure on the people sitting on the dais, and you don't know what kind of results you're going to get when you have that kind of a pressure.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Yeah, just to restate a point that might have been lost, and that is, sometimes during the debate, you can't anticipate an amendment might fail, and then you might want to re-amend. And that could be a lengthy, that you can't anticipate the day before where a conversation might go. And so I'd just like to make a provision, some kind of a provision. And I go to LD3 meetings, and right during the middle of the evening, they're writing down this is, and then they hand it in. This is my written a motion to amend, or this is my written motion. So during the middle of a meeting, it is feasible to actually draft a quick motion to amend so they can have it in writing and submit that to the parliamentarian under the chairman to be considered for vote that evening. So it seems like this would be precluding us from doing something that we have a right to do, which is file a motion to amend and then bring it back and then re-amend it. And so I think that's a little bit of an issue that we have to deal with.
Vice Mayor?
I think we're talking two different things. We're talking that if you have an ordinance and you change the ordinance and you bring it with you and all of a sudden you give it to us, you've already prepared it ahead of time. Where I'm asking for consideration that we have those documents ahead of time, so like Sharon said and I said before, that we can comprehend it. We can study it along with the agenda, and if need be, we can call a director, whoever, and ask questions. Also out of respect for your time. 5 o'clock, the same day, getting documents like that, trying to put them together is really undue pressure on you. And I would think you would already be prepared for the meeting by then. And as to making amendments or motions or writing things down during a discussion, I think that's a different thing. I think that that comes as a result of what you're discussing and what's before you while you're on the dais. I don't think this particular amendment precludes that. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I can see the reason for solving transparency issues. Is there a way to clarify the wording where if Councilmember Kalvianakis's theoretical situation were to occur, that if I were to take this notepad and write down my amendment and try to hand that out to everybody during the meeting, because that's when it was thought of, is there a way to just clarify that language where if the note's written during the meeting because of the discussion, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I think I know what you're trying to say. We could say something to the effect that it applies to not amendments made at the council meeting. This would be predetermined. I think a perfect example, and I can use this because they also provided me their changes. Councilmember Skillicorn had a handout, and he provided me, and that's one of the things in here. Everyone needs to give me a copy. Residents too. Everybody needs to give me a copy for the public record. But he handed that out, but he gave one to me too, so that met that purpose. But these are things that you've thought about, and this is great. You should be reviewing these things, and if you have some ways to make things and to improve them, please bring them. But for those that you didn't do on the fly, then this is what this is for. But maybe we can do something to show that if it's on the fly, this is not the same.
Okay. Thank you, Linda.
And I agree with that. I agree with what Town Clerk Mendenhall. I see both points that you're making here. I think that the way I'm reading it, we're talking about if you have a handout, if there's something that you're going to distribute that's pre-prepared, absolutely, whatever day or time you establish as a council is fine. If there's something that's done on the fly, it absolutely should not preclude that. I do amendments, propose language for amendments on the fly. We've had to do that many times during the meeting, just because, or stipulations or whatever the case may be. So no, we'd be sort of stopping our own work, right, by precluding those types of amendments. So I think we could probably add some sort of language to that effect, whether that means we need to just bring this particular provision back for consideration next time around and kind of draft that between you and me, Linda.
Okay.
Maybe we can do that. I don't know if that's.
Well, I have a question. So this has not been a problem. If you have a graph or you have something that you want to be included, that's information for a meeting, then, that would be something that would be great to get ahead of time. But an amendment, even if it's a complicated amendment, you write it down yourself, it becomes your notes, you come to the meeting, we all hear it at the same time, and so no one's making a motion or doing anything on that amendment or anything until everybody is hearing it at the same time. You're right, making amendments on the fly can be kind of, harrowing, because you're like, well, wait a minute, but that's why we're here, that's the nature of what we're doing. And so it doesn't mean you have to write it down and hand it out to everybody, you just say it. You just say the amendment that you want. So I don't think anything in this language needs to be changed. This doesn't change the amendment process of a meeting. It just says if you have something to distribute that you know about by 3 o'clock the day, or by 3 o'clock that day, I prefer the day before 2, because it does get, we have our meetings at 2 to go over what we're going to do at the meeting. We got Linda running around like crazy, and I just think that the day before would be a little easier than the 3 o'clock. But either one, I'm okay with, but I still think something written, it doesn't have anything to do with making an amendment at a live meeting. And it can be as complicated as you want it to be. But you're reading it orally, and it's fair to everybody else, and you're not running around handing papers where people are trying to read. We all hear it, we can agree with it, second it, whatever. So I really don't think that this changes anything that you might want to do.
Yeah. And thank you, Ms. Mayor. Yeah, I think we're all in agreement. It's just the wording. I think that we're all in agreement that if you have a study, a seismic survey study, a street study, yeah, sure, get that in early. I think we all agree with that. And as far as if we did have a complicated motion, I just want to make sure that, we didn't get that steamrolled in this language, because, and if you do a complicated motion during the course of a meeting, you don't really have to hand it out to everybody. It's just to document it for the record, so when we do a vote, we know what we're voting on, and we don't do a vote and then say, well, I didn't mean that, that wasn't supposed to be. It's the reverse, I said. It's just to clarify the record, so when we vote, we know what we voted on. That's simply it. And so as long as we're in agreement on that, I think we have consensus.
Thank you. Jerry, did you want to say anything?
Mayor, the only thing I would say that I would add is I agree with the amendment, but if the mayor or a council member has an important document, like Alan shared something at one of the meetings, I don't think we should have a time limit on that the day before. I think we should be able to take it to the meeting and then disseminate it and make sure that Linda gets a copy of it. Because there's quite often times that we come up with information, and I haven't seen a lot of that, but there could be a time when we have an important piece of information that we need to share, and we have a deadline for sharing that. I'm not sure I'm in on that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jerry. I'll add to that, though, that I noticed the last couple of times we did it, the folks here, and obviously the ones on TV that are watching on the television or on their computers, we're all reading something that they can't see, and I'd really rather have it be oral. So that I'd still agree with adding this part, this change, making this change. Vice Mayor?
I would still like it the day before. I just think it's important And if it's that important to have a handout, that's significant, and it needs to be considered in advance of coming to the meeting while we're studying the agenda for the totality of the circumstances, and then again, to be able to call if we want to speak with the director or somebody else about it.
One more comment. If the majority wants the day of, I do ask that it not be later than 3 o'clock. I don't think that's fair to our town clerk. I know she's usually here by 5 or 5:10 every day because I'm usually here by 5:10, so I see her every time I'm in. So I don't think after 3 is fair to our town clerk, but I would like it the day before so that I have we all have a chance to review it.
Do we have consensus on the day of? I mean, how many people are okay with the day of, or how many people want the day before? Day before? Yeah, I'd rather have the day before. So 3 per day before?
I'd have a day of at 5
Day of.
o'clock.
Day of 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
Day of at 3, just to be fair to Linda.
I would be good for day of, and just today's logo was presented today.
Good point.
And Jerry wanted, he doesn't want it at all. Okay, not at all, right?
Day of.
Day of, okay.
Mayor and council, if I can just recommend, it sounds like we don't have consensus on this. And town manager was suggesting we may need to bring this provision back for a separate discussion because clearly there's not consensus tonight. So that may guide that may help us advance the discussion forward.
Mhm.
And if you move to approve without approval of section, what is this?
Well, if
4.4.
I say day of at 3, would we have consensus?
If everyone agrees on day of at 3, then we can move on, then we can move forward.
Brenda?
I think Jerry would be against that.
I know, I'm just trying to see if we have 4 votes for day of at 3.
Do we have 4 votes for day of at 3? 1, 2,
We got them.
we do? We have it?
I don't,
Okay.
I'd rather just get this over with.
Okay.
Thank
Day of at
you.
3.
Day of at 3, okay. And copy for the clerk. Okay. Email is always good, if you can. Yeah. But I do have a timestamp. I need it for elections. Okay, so the next item is the order of the agenda. And we had talked about at the council retreat, the statement of participation. This is just the portion of where it would fall on the agenda. Talking about it's later on in the document. And so we would follow the roll call. The mayor would say.
Linda, sorry, could you move the page?
Yes, oh.
Thanks.
Could you refer to by number?
Yes, okay. Let's see, where am I at on this one? 5.2. Is this it? I can't. Call to the public. No, I think it's a little too far. There I am. There I am. Okay. So we're on page 9. And so the mayor would say roll call and statement of participation. And so then I would give the roll call, and then I would say the statement of participation, which will come in a little bit. On the next page, page 10, since we no longer have scheduled public appearance, that needs to be crossed off, and we'll keep presentations because we will continue with presentations. There was also something noted that the council report for information from town manager is not how it's listed on the agenda. It's listed as council discussion and direction to the town manager. I like that verbiage better, so I struck that, the council request, and added this verbiage. Hopefully you all like that too. And then we talked about the future agenda items category, the new category, that would fall after the direction to the town manager. Any questions? Okay. Then on page 11, this is where we, the definition for the statement of participation is added to the rules of procedure. It talks about statement of participation. Following the roll call, the town clerk will read the statement of participation at each regular meeting and will consist of the following. And this is more for a call to the public and anyone speaking for council on an agenda item. It's basically, you know, some people are intimidated when they come to a council meeting and they're not really sure what they need to do. We have people who come regularly, so they're pretty hip on this, okay? But I would say anyone wishing to address the council regarding items listed on the agenda or under call to the public should fill out a request to comment card located in the back of the council chambers and hand it to the town clerk prior to consideration of that agenda item. When your name is called, please approach the podium, speak into the microphone, and state your name, and if you are a resident for the public record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. It is the policy of the mayor and council to not comment on items brought forth under call to the public. However, staff can be directed to report back to the council at a future date or to schedule items raised for a future council meeting. And I think this is important because, you know, people don't understand what, you know, each category on the agenda is and how they're supposed to, you know, they want to speak, but this will just help, you know, guide them. I did have a comment today. They didn't know if the council could answer them under call to the public. This would, you know, answer any of those questions ahead of schedule.
Yes, Ms. Mayor, thank you. Just to share some information I got today, I thought the statement of participation was a little confusing. So I reached out to our town manager, our competent town manager, and I asked him, could you straighten this out for me? So just for the people in the audience and the people at home, this is not giving another chance for people, and like a second call to the public, a second call to participation. This is just kind of putting everything under one umbrella. We're not offering another chance to speak. This is just the same call to the public, but it's just giving like the rules of the road. And so just so there's some clarity on that to the people at home.
Okay.
And thanks, Grady.
And then the next portion is under scheduled public appearance and presentations. We're removing this scheduled public appearance, and so we'll strike any of that language that talks about that. But one of the things that was apparent is that we didn't really say what presentations were, and so language is added to say the town manager may use the presentation section to provide the council with an update from department directors, contracted service providers, neighboring jurisdictions, and regional organizations. Because this is the portion where we have people from like GPEC, Amanda gave her presentation, and so we wanted to kind of give a definition so it looks different than what's reports. That's the question. Well, what's the difference between reports and presentations? And so this kind of gives a definition for that. And then under call to the public, they're missing the word "the," so I added that. And then, of course, all this will need to be renumbered because we're adding the statement of participation. The next part on 12, I'm striking where it says comments will be summarized and included in the minutes. We do verbatim minutes, so that information's already in there. So that language is not really needed. On page 13, this is, we added upon advice of the town attorney. This is talking about speaking before council. And it's just something that, you know, at a meeting, you can make certain kinds of changes. And so we just want to add that language. And then the next item is, since we now, this document was, I'm trying to remember when it was created, like 1999. And so we have a new process. You can submit information online. So let's put that in our rules of procedure and talk about how that should be handled. Residents may also use the online request form to provide input regarding an item on the agenda. The online form is found on the town's website. The resident must completely fill out the online form and submit it no later than 3 p.m. on the day of the council meeting for this item. The town clerk will place copies at each of the council members stationed on the dais, and when the item is up for discussion after all of the in-person comments have concluded, we'll read the speaker's name and whether or not they are for or against the item for the public record. Written comments provided through the online form will not be read out loud at the meeting. This is just basically letting people know how online comments are handled. And then we did add the for or against to the online form. So this way we know for sure if you're for or against something, if you put in a written statement. This wasn't talked about at the council retreat, but this is something that needed to be added. So if you have any, questions about that, let me know, or any changes to that before I move on. Okay, we'll go on. Page 14. This is just that area where it was called council request for information from town manager, and we changed to what's actually on the agenda. Page 15 has no changes. Page 16, no changes. 17, no changes. 18, no changes. Now, if you have changes, let me know and tell me to stop. 20, there is a change. And one of the things, when I was reading the rules of procedure, because I'm a town clerk, I need to know these things. And since we were going to the roll call and voice voting, it has on there that all the members would be done in random order for each of the new items being voted on. I changed that to, and it's because nobody wants to always be first all the time. And that makes sense, but it's typically the vice mayor and mayor are usually last. And so I changed that because I felt like it should be in sync with what is done naturally at meetings. And so I changed that to, if a roll call method of voting is used, which we are using that from now on, the town, unless we get a voting system, but the town clerk or designee shall call the names of members in random order with each new vote, concluding the vote with the vice mayor and mayor respectively. Members shall respond A or nay. Do you have any questions? Since this is not something that was brought up at the council retreat, I just felt like it's something that we should change.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. As we all know, the vice mayor is a rotating position. Every 8 months, there's a new vice mayor. And so this is with all deference to our current vice mayor. I don't understand why she would not be, or the vice mayor's position wouldn't just be part of the randomized crowd to call. And of course, with the mayor being the deciding vote, the seventh vote. I think that the vice mayor it's a ceremonial role. They do ribbon cuttings and such, but they don't have any real formal duties. And I think by making this amendment, we're actually giving the vice mayor more authority for what is just a rotating position that is kind of ceremonial. So I would be against that.
Any other comments? I think it's just it's something that they do at other meetings all the time, have the vice chair or the vice whatever, usually a vice chair go next to last. So I'm fine with leaving it, and also knowing that it does rotate so that everybody would have their chance. So I'm fine with leaving it the way it is. Any other comments?
I'm fine with leaving it because it's an honor to be rotated in as vice mayor. It's not just going to ribbon cuttings, et cetera. You represent the mayor in her place in Steed when she is unable to attend certain events. So I think it's completely fine to leave it like that. I don't think there's any harm in doing it.
The vice mayor does, let's say if Mayor Dickey is unable to attend the meeting, the vice mayor would step up and be presiding officer of that meeting. That's why I had it that way as well. Is there anybody else who consensus will move forward as it is? Okay. All right. Next is there's no change on 21. On 22, it's just putting it's just decision making, changing that. The next page is 23. There's no changes to that. 24, it's just changing the word of to or, because it's transportation or other assistance. Page 25, Now, in keeping with numbering issues, these numbering was off, and I guess I did the same thing. The person before me couldn't count, and I can't count either. So, don't look at that, but there is only 7. So we're adding our Historic and Cultural Advisory Commission to the regularly scheduled boards and commissions that we have, since that was approved last year. So we need to add that, and so we'll put the numbering and we'll have it correct on there this time. And then I wanted to change, I was reading this and how we actually do our selection on board and commission or committee members. They don't submit a cover letter of interest, so I struck that. And then I also struck resume because I included the resume in the next portion about the application. The application that describes the applicant's skills, experience, and educational background needed to ensure the successful filling of the vacancy. Applicants may submit a resume along with the application, however, not in lieu of filling out the application. And so it's changed there. And so with removal of those first 2 items, we need to read number. Does anyone have any issues with that? And then that also changes the section number down for the numbering for the subsections in that one paragraph. That should do it for all of our changes to this document. You will notice at the bottom where I do have a strikeout where it says Appendix E, APPE. This document was used for a board and commissions handbook, and it even used to say boards and commissions. This is our rules of procedure, so it's not an appendix. That needs to be removed and only called rules of procedure. So that's why those changes are on there.
I appreciate you taking that out, because it was like if you search online, it was said boards and commissions, and you would never look for that. Were you able, I'm sorry, I didn't know, when you did the online part, were you able to find that towns typo?
Yes, yes, and so that'll be changed.
Thank you, appreciate that. Any other, yes, Councilwoman.
I just want to say I love your detail-oriented brain. I love it. You're very good at your job.
Thank you.
So with that, I move to approve Resolution 2023-08, updating the rules of procedure as presented by Ms. Linda.
Wasn't there a slight amendment, Aaron, that you were going to include in that?
I think I think we were actually leaving it exactly as it was, right? Because it's only pertaining to handouts, and it was same day, 3 p.m. I think those were the only 2 issues.
Okay.
Thank you. Roll call, please. What, sorry?
Lori Troller.
Wow, this is the last.
I'm sorry to add to this. Page 13, number 3, was the write-ins. I would like to see added to that the fact that, because I was really surprised when I did a write-in, I was waiting for it to be read. Nowhere is it heard. And then when I wanted to hear or see everyone else's comments, that big old email, can you send them all? And so that's not defined. Can you define the fact that if somebody does a call-in, that the only way to see all those comments, you can reference these via, Linda, we send you an email, but it's kind of a big mystery. Once we give those to you, for folks who don't know, where do they go? How do you get at them? How do you see the rest? That's my only.
They are not part of the public record. It's just your name and whether you're for or against. If someone were to want to see what other people wrote, they would need to do a public records request. I'm not sure how.
Is there a way to do, sorry, I can ask a question. Is there a way to get your comment via write-in if you can't attend a meeting to get it on public record? Because this is public record.
Correct. So how this came about was during COVID. And so when people weren't able to attend meetings, the town clerk, I wasn't here, but the town clerk would read everybody's statements. And so that doesn't really happen now, but, I mean, we can talk about that. What would we want to do? And
For a couple of reasons, I would go ahead and advise against that. The typical thing that happens, and what happened in a couple of our surrounding communities, is like when they started accepting online public comments, you ended up getting 260 of the same comment against an item or for an item. They were all a page each, and one of our sister municipalities spent 2.5 hours just reading comments. And to avoid that type of issue, what we typically recommend is if someone wants to have something actually stated on the record, come and speak about it. Otherwise, they're heard with respect to like this item right here. Ms. Gildersleeve submitted this. It's on the council for consideration. I think that's what the town clerk's getting at.
And what we could do is update that to say, if you it does say in there that it's not read aloud, it's just your name and for or against. But we could have, it doesn't even have to be part of the rules of procedure, but it could just be when you're on the page where you fill out a form, you could just mention that these are not read at, and if you want to have them hear what you have to say, you have to come in person or something like that. I think you understand what I'm trying to say. I think that that's what's important, because people do think that you're going to read their comment, and we don't. And I do love talking, so I would read them all, but as many as we get, I don't think that we have time for all that. But it's important. I understand what you're saying, but we could do some kind of instructions on the website when you're getting ready to fill out that form, so people know that it's not going to be read.
It sounds like a happy medium.
Yeah, it's basic.
And not part of the public record,
But
just
your
your
name is read and your position is read,
and your
and that is
position.
on the public record.
And that is. So it may not be part of this
thank you.
document, but it should be part of instruction so people know. One of the things I like to do is I like people to understand our processes and how this works, because we do want to hear what people think on items, and we want your input. And if you don't feel that anyone's knows what you're saying, then that's.
Well, we always have email too,
And email.
which is to communicate with us before too. So technically, we have a motion and a second, and we're supposed to not take any more comments after that. So we can, ourselves.
Yes.
So could we please have a roll call vote?
Yes. Councilmember Kalavianakis.
Aye.
Councilmember Skillicorn.
Aye.
Councilmember Toth.
Aye.
Councilmember Grzybowski.
Aye.
Councilmember Fidel.
Aye.
Vice Mayor McMahon. Mayor Dickey.
Aye. Thank you very much, everyone. Now we'll have to go read them more and more. Thank you so much. Our last item is our legislative bulletin, our legislative items. Grady, did you have anything?
I didn't, although this is the time of the session when we start seeing striker bills, which is very dangerous. And striker bills basically are bills that were intended for a different purpose, a different law entirely, and they're struck and then inserted language of bills that may not have made it out of committee. So I think the mayor has a couple examples of those. Yeah, so I'll turn it back to you.
Oh,
See, this one I was paying attention. Yeah, well, Senator Kavanaugh and I wrote to most of the Senate caucuses and to ask them to vote no on the 1117, which is the zoning bill. And they did kill it, but it was a zombie, and now it's back, and it's a strike everything onto 2536. It will be heard in Commerce tomorrow. So unfortunately, 2536 was a bill that we liked. It was an actual league resolution, so we were all on the record as being in favor of it. So the league wrote us all today and said, please switch your vote from yes to no, because it is now, nothing even resembling. In fact, that was the league resolution. It was the House bill of the first bill that was signed by the governor, which was a league bill, but it was the Senate bill, and this was the mirror bill of it. So it's kind of ironic that they're using that as this vehicle. So, and again, same old thing, zoning, upzoning, is what we're talking about with Mountainside. It'll be by right. There'd be no planning and zoning. There'd be no discussion here. Yeah, and it hasn't changed and it didn't get better. So I want to thank Senator Kavanaugh and all the senators who voted to kill that. And it will now be back, and they'll have to try to do it again. We had, there's a couple others, charter city bills and things that are just, you know, they're really harmful. But one of the ones I really wanted to mention was 1162, though, home-based businesses restrictions creates by right, no impact home-based businesses, so it's not commercial, but there are a lot of kind of undefined aspects to this bill, increasing in parking and traffic by homes, as long as it's not substantial, but of course, what does that mean? Be very difficult to measure. It could only have 3 staff, but the staff has to be related, but it's like, and it could be like car repair. Oh, and no business licenses. So they wouldn't have to have a business license. So not only just whatever the little minimal amount that we collect for that, but also we would have no knowledge of that. So that one is worrisome, I think, on several levels. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. It did pass 5-2 through the committee. So let's see, what else? Municipal oversight. Yeah, I think, you know, there's a lot going on. But I think the most immediate one would be if you were in favor of that one bill, 2536, make sure you turn it into a no. Councilwoman.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Mayor. And I just want to let you know that we've talked about this one before, but 1053, the telemedicine bill for veterinarian care, and that went to committee, and they got pulled out of committee this week. I don't know why. There's a very strong lobby against telemedicine for pets. So basically, this is going to help pets that are in very rural areas and on reservations, and it's either providing some care or no care. The lobbyists say that they are going to prescribe drugs over the phone and telemedicine. That is simply not true. It's a lie. They don't prescribe any drugs. They just give as much care as they can on the phone. So I'm hoping this goes back to committee and goes through the process, because if you love pets, you'd be for this bill.
Thanks. So can we find that now to put in a yes on it? Because
It's not on an agenda right now, so you can do it.
just have to keep trying.
Yes 2.0, not the normal.
Thank you. So, okay, our next item is our council discussion direction to town manager, which for the moment includes future agenda items. Is there anything anybody has? Yes, Councilman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Grady, thank you for all you've done and all that. I don't know if this is already going to be on agenda because I don't know, the back room, but the Sunridge Park potentially selling that property or what we're going to do with it. I know we discussed it, but I don't know the formal, if we're going to discuss that coming up. And maybe it should be more of a informational than a action, because I don't know what the consensus of the council is yet. But I would like to have that discussion so we can come up to some direction.
Will do. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we have some information about that. Councilwoman?
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Boy, this week, my email account has just been blowing up on this Angel Heart Health Facility. I've been hearing from a lot of constituents about that. There's a great deal of concern out there in our community. And I think I'd be remiss if I just sat here and didn't address this tonight. The facility known as Angel Heart Health Services, located at 16929 East Sorrel Avenue. Given the nature of the proposed services, the behavioral health and detox care, and an area zone CO, which is not an approved use under our zoning laws, I hereby formally request this council and mayor to place the current business license that has been applied for on hold until a public hearing can be held to gather input from the public and consult with our town's legal department. I request the business license application is a non-compliant facility. It's be placed on a future upcoming agenda, and furthermore request an executive session to discuss the legal ramifications to the service we received tonight in the document entitled Notice to Fountain Hills City Council and Staff. Significantly about this, I know I reached out already to staff, and it does hold us personally liable for damages. And so I think that this is something that we have to address. I think this is something the public is aware of and wants to have public comment on. And so I am requesting this be placed on a future agenda. And I'd like to have a second and a third if I could, please.
Second.
Thank you. I think I'll have to talk to Aaron about, because I think the executive session is in order. I don't know about the procedure of us actually talking about a specific business license request or application. So let's go with that first.
Yeah. At a minimum, legal advice is warranted.
Yeah, and I mean, if we've got the 3 council members that at least want to put this business license on hold, can that be done?
Can you let me circle back with the council tomorrow via
Of course.
email? Okay, thanks.
Okay.
That might be better to send a privileged email.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other items? I want to make sure, of course, that I say whatever your next adventure is, our neighbor, Grady, our resident, and his family, we wish them all good things, of course. I really can't thank you enough for your steady leadership, always professional, honest answers. Grady's commitment to excellence, that's my favorite team's motto, was always clear and constant, and Fountain Hills is all the better for your 9 years of service. And I know this isn't technically your last day, so you'll hear a lot more from us, but we just can't thank you enough for what you've done for our town. Thank you very much. And with that, we're adjourned.